These my dollars make it hurt.
Welcome back to a week 4 lineup edition of the Deep Cover Podcast. I'm your host, Kerry Stevenson. As I always say, shout out to my brothers, Chris Aguilera, Mike Crawford. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it, man. First, we want to go through and kind of review last week's lineup. So last week's lineup, 151.52. I'm taking all my points, so that 0.52, I'm taking that too. 151.52 points. Now, if you remember last week, as I was kind of talking through this lineup, talking about Josh Allen, talking about how I thought about double stacking them, but had questions about the upside. And really, I had questions about the upside, but I also kind of let recency bias and some of my own kind of questioning of, religiously double stacking my quarterback, kind of let that block my blessings, man, because, uh, I knew going into the matchup versus that Washington secondary. They have been giving up some production. They like to play a lot of zone, which plays right into the hands of Cole Beasley and Manny Sanders. So, I knew all of this going in, and I, kind of let myself overthink it and, based off of the previous week and, talk myself out of it. So I got to eat that one. But when you look at that matchup last week, Manny Sanders went 5 for 94 and 2 TDs. Cole Beasley went 11 for 98. So either one of them guys swapped out for Woods, and we are talking about a bit of a different lineup. And Woods ended up with 6.8 DK points. So that was maybe my one regret spot with this lineup. Looking at everything else, man, I can live with everything else. Josh Allen went off for that 40 piece, 29 for Justin Jefferson, 22 for Eckler. Bengals gave us 12 solid points on the cheap. Logan Thomas gave us solid 13. Fournette, that one hurt us, only 6.4. But I stand behind my reasoning for that play. The Bucks that came in with only passing touchdowns on the season. And this is a game they fell behind. So, the carries weren't really there. They also, gave, Rojo half of the work there. And then when you look at it, the Bucks had a rushing TD from Tom Brady and a rushing TD from Chris Godwin. So, I mean, there it is right there. I mean, we knew those TDs were going to flip, but, I just expected Fournette to be on the business end of them. So, it happens, man, but that's a play. I felt good about the process of getting to that play. Um, compared to a lot of my other plays last week. So, it didn't work, but those I'll live with. Those that I feel good about my process going into them, I can live with those. So, all in all, solid week for us. 151 is not going to, win you any big tournaments or whatever. But, if you're playing in some smaller stuff, maybe you were able to get something off there. But, solid is not what we're looking for here. We're trying to blow. We're trying to break that bank. So, we're gonna get right back to it in week 4. So let's go ahead and jump into the lineup. Gonna identify my quarterback here right off the top, and I'm going to Dallas. That price for Dak Prescott just too cheap in my opinion. Carolina's defense has been very good, and what's surprising about their defense is they've been lights out against the run. They made some moves in the offseason to try to shore up that run defense because they were getting gashed in the run game last year. I think they were like the worst team in the league as far as run defense last year. And then they traded Denzel Perryman, which would kind of negate one of those moves because Denzel Perryman was, he's a guy, phone booth guy in between um, in that interior that brings that thump in the running game. So he was one of their additions in the offseason to kind of shore that up. But when they let him go, um, was kind of head scratching in a way. But then I thought, okay, if they let him go, clearly they feel good about the pieces, around them and the scheme and some of the things they want to do. And that's exactly what's been happening. Daquan Jones been good, big for them in that interior. And then just through scheme and just like incredible speed they have on that defense, man. They fly into the football, making plays. So completely locking up the run so far this season. Uh, I think they're maybe at like 93, 94 yards rushing to running backs on the season so far. I mean, they held Alvin Kamara to 5 yards rushing on 8 carries. So um, with Kellen Moore, I don't expect him to try to slam up against this run defense. I mean, I don't think it's going to be like a Buck situation where they don't run it at all, but I expect them to throw the ball a lot in this game, and I think that bodes well for Dak. Um, Panthers just lost their stud corner J.C. Horn to injury. So this is looking like a good spot for Dak. I think they're gonna be able to score some points. I think they're gonna be able to move the ball through the air. Panthers have a good looking pass rush and do some things blitz wise, but Dallas has one of the best offensive lines in the league. So I like their chances of being able to hold up and make some plays downfield. So got Dak in there. Let's go ahead and plug him in. Get to that game. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and plug Dak in here. And so of course, we want to try to stack him with someone. And I'm gonna go with Amari Cooper here. So let's go ahead and plug him in. Y- Like Cooper this week, 6K is a good price for him. His snaps last week were on par with any other week. And I think the game plan that they came in with just kind of dictated to a slow game for him. They ran the ball more. Zeke got going. Eagles like to play that cover two style of defense that their coordinator coming over from the Colts implemented. So they want to take away the big play with those. So that kind of necessitated them to run the ball a little bit more, get the tight ends more involved, that kind of thing. But I think you'll see things kind of shift back this week, and those receivers will be more involved. So like going Cooper there at 6K. The run back here, we can stay right at this part of the screen. The run back is extremely easy. DJ Moore, love the way that he's being used in this offense. Way he's being deployed. CMC being out should help him even more from a volume standpoint. And with my first two picks, I went with Cowboys passing games guys. So if we're telling that story, I'm expecting the Cowboys to score through the air early and often, and push this game into a negative game script for the Panthers. And so should be a big time target game for Moore. So it makes for a pretty easy decision there. So next here on this in this lineup, I'm gonna go with a guy that's gonna probably be on my short list of players this week. Somebody's gonna be a core of what I'm doing, and that's Terry McLaurin. McLaurin had a big week two on those 14 targets against the Giants. Only seven last week against I forgot who it was they were playing. Team escapes me, but yeah, 7 targets last week. But they only threw it 24 times. So I think those attempts should probably be up this week, and so I like his chances to again get close to that double digit target range, and give Terry McLaurin 10 targets, and you're gonna see some production. Now AJ Terrell, the Falcons, pretty good young corner, looks to be back in the mix this week. So uh, I, that kind of hurts his upside a little bit, but I still love McLaurin this week against a Falcons defense that's definitely vulnerable. And then also I'm going to throw a kind of a bonus in here for you guys, a bonus kind of pivot here. So Dak is going to be popular this week. playing him with one of the wide receivers with DJ Moore run back, which is what we've done, is kind of the low hanging fruit. That's an easy thing to that a lot of people are going to get to, I think. Dalton Schultz coming off of that strong game last week. He's probably going to be a favorite as a kind of double stacking partner because he's not very expensive, and you know, recency people just saw him have a big game, so naturally going to want to go back to him. I personally think that performance was more situational. Jarwin is still out there just as much. Not getting targeted as much, but he's out there just as much. I don't think Schultz has pulled away, and I think the volume there was more predicated on the way the Eagles were defending in that zone than a breakout from Schultz. Um, so they kind of figure out a way to kind of stack this game up, but try to get away from the norm is just play both of the Cowboys receivers, the top guys. So go back to week one. Uh, as we were just talking about, the Cowboys, they were playing that stout Bucks defense, and they didn't bother to even try to run into it. They threw it a ton, and both CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper went over 100 yards, and they had 3 touchdowns between them. So, um, you know what? We're gonna pivot live on the show. We're gonna pivot. Um, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna plug CeeDee Lamb in here. I done told myself a story, and now I got to believe the story I'm telling. So we're gonna go with Lamb there instead of McLaurin in this one. But you can also pivot and throw McLaurin in here. How this lineup is going to shake out. So I'll probably do both. But for the purpose of this, perfect time to believe my own story here, and go with CeeDee Lamb. So gonna go with Lamb there right now. So let's see what we got here. All right, so we got our receivers, we got the quarterback, so we better start hitting this running back position up. So, um, a guy I like this week, I'm uncomfortable with it, but I love the upside. Is Jonathan Taylor going up against the Dolphins? They're one of them teams, like I explained in previous pods. They're a lot like the Chargers. They don't use a ton of resources in the run game defensively. They're going to go to the play their sub package. They're more concerned about stopping the pass first and foremost, which you should be. But that will open up some production for the running back. And so Taylor is one of those guys that the Colts, they really want to get the ball to him. But they've been in some games where they haven't been able to do that. This is a game where I think they can do that. Even with their injuries, even with their uneven play at quarterback, Carson Wentz has been banged up. Um, because on the other side of that game, Dolphins have Jacoby Brissett, and he's just not really challenging down the field. I don't think that the Dolphins have enough to really push this into a negative game script. So I think it's going to stay kind of neutral throughout, and so that should give Jonathan Taylor all the opportunities to get 20 plus carries in this game. And so even if the Dolphins are able to slow this game down despite being in those sub packages, because I mean, let's be real, one of the things that makes this play scary is the Colts injuries on the O line. So they're not 100% there. So that's a concern. But even if the Dolphins are able to bottle up this run game, for the most part, this is a volume, sport. Fantasy is a volume sport, and Jonathan Taylor is one of those guys that, 18 carries, 19 carries in, maybe he's averaging 3.5 yards a clip, but he's that strong, that big, that fast, that 20th carry, he can pop one for 70 and a touchdown. And so that turns this game into an outlier kind of game. And then two, even though they use Naheem Hines a lot, Taylor's not a zero in the passing game. Even in the passing game, T.Y. Hilton is out. Wentz isn't playing great. They just don't have a lot there. Paris Campbell was a guy I was high on going into this season. Um, haven't really found footing for him. So it's really just Pittman in the passing game as far as the receivers go. So, Hines and Taylor are probably second and third on the list in the passing game as well. So, I could see Taylor getting a few targets as well to, kind of boost that floor. So, like going Taylor there. Also gives us, something a little bit different since we are going with a popular Dak and popular DJ Moore. So uh, we're gonna go ahead and plug Jonathan Taylor in here. So now let's go to the other running back spot. So the other running back spot, I'm going to go to one of the best games on the slate for me, and it's the Browns and Vikings game, and I'm going with Nick Chubb. Chubb had one of them games last week that we were always fearful. But yeah, so 22 carries, 84 yards, no touchdowns for Chubb, no targets in the passing game. Um, but when you look at this matchup, Vikings have been kind of surprisingly kind of gashed in the running game a little bit. 4.8 yards per carry given up. And the Browns are one of those teams, man, and they're one of the very best running teams in football, arguably the best running team in football with their infrastructure that they have. So the hope here is that some of these other popular 6K bats keep people off of Chubb, so we get Chubb at less exposure, and then hopefully Kareem Hunt stays out of the end zone, and those opportunities get to Chubb instead of Hunt. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug Kareem Hunt. I was say Kareem Hunt. No, we're not. He watched his targets from last week, and I thought he looked really good. Still showcasing those ball skills, ability to get open. 31% target share last week, and has a good matchup against these Vikings corners this week. And unlike last week, I expect this Vikings offense to push the Browns. So this is going to be a game that um, I could see easily Beckham Jr. getting double digit targets in. And even last year, I mean, last year, Beckham wasn't the Beckham that we saw with the Giants, but he was still a guy that they were prioritizing getting the ball when he was healthy and in games. His target share was, always pretty strong. So at his price, um, he's just too cheap for what his upside is. That's more he's priced at I wouldn't say he's priced at his floor. But it's close, So like him at that price, that 5,800 price. So we're gonna plug him in there. Um, One thing that's difficult with me, that I was kind of struggling with this lineup is I wanted to run it back with somebody from Minnesota, and I'll probably maybe run some variations. So giving you guys another bonus, give you a variation where I plug in, Thielen or Jefferson on the other side. But there were guys I just felt a little bit better about, and I didn't want to get so hung up on the run back that I made like a suboptimal kind of decision with my lineup. So if you see this and you see there are no Vikings ran back in it, that's the reasoning for it. But I might throw one or two lineups in with a variation that has a Vikings receiver in it. But just didn't want to uh, force it too much. You know what I mean? So that was the reasoning there. So got Beckham. I'm gonna hit tight end next. I'm going back to that clearance rack. This time I'm going to Will Disley. Gerald Everett is slated to miss this game. Dwayne Estrus is yet to make his debut. He's slated to miss this game as well. Uh, Seahawks really haven't had a third passing game target kind of step to the forefront. So this is the opportunity for Disley. We saw that stretch in 2019, I believe it was, where he had like 23 catches and 4 touchdowns in like a 6 game span before he went down to injury. And he's only 2,600 this week. So I like going to Disley. Now we're going to defense. About to get real out of pocket with this one. Y'all ready? This week's defense, the New York Jets. Now, before y'all go to Mike and Chris and try to get me drug tested, just hear me out. Jets defense, 2 stacks this week. Minimum price on DK. We know the staple of what the Titans want to do in the passing game is that play action with Ryan Tannehill. They didn't do it as much in the first game or so, but they seem to have kind of shifted back to it. In the last game or so. Want to take a guess who the number one play action defense is in the NFL right now? That's right. Jets, Jets. Shout out to Ted Wynn over at the Athletic for that stat. Does great work over there with the Athletic. But yeah, no Julio, no AJ Brown. Jets defense is holding teams to 3.6 yards per carry on the ground. And I think a lot of their issues have boiled down to these just inept performances from their offense the last couple weeks. So now we enter the Titans defense. Titans defense has played better than I've thought in some spots, but this is still not a good defense. This is a defense that you want to play to kind of get the ball back rolling. Now, I'm not telling you that the Jets are going to go out there and score 30, but they should be competent in this game, I would think. Um, so, when you have a lineup that doesn't have Derrick Henry in it, which this one doesn't, I'm going to be playing a lot of Derrick Henry, but clearly I'm not playing him in this lineup. Here's a little cheap way to get leverage on that. Going to be a lot of people playing Derrick Henry. If Derrick Henry has a game like we just talked about Nick Chubb having 22 for 84 and no touchdowns, and Jets get a couple sacks and a pick, or whatever the case may be, and there you go. That's how you get leverage. So it's my pick, man. I'm riding with the Jets this week at my defense. Now, if I'm keeping it a buck, man, I could sit here and probably make an argument for a lot of defenses every week, because really the scoring is so random that um, you know once the games kick off, it just really doesn't matter. Teams you came in thinking, oh, this was a great week for them, they could get blitzed. Another team you didn't think they had a good matchup at all, they get a pick six, and then all of a sudden they were a good play. So just a random nature of it, man, makes it so, man. Just find somebody to play. Tell yourself a story with it, and play them. So that's what I'm doing this week, man. So um, I'm gonna let y'all know. I'll let y'all decide the price point or whatever. Not the price point, but the whatever points they amount of points they need to be considered a hit. Let me know in the comments, on Twitter, whatever. Let me know, because if they hit, price going up. Let y'all know that right now. Price going up. I gave y'all the Bengals last week on the low, 12, 13 points from them. I think they were 2,400. Giving you the flat men this week. If they hit, price going up. So man, that's it, man. I'm gonna go ahead and close it out here. Thank you for coming and kick it with me. Do us a huge favor, man. If you're watching this, just take 5 seconds of your time. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe. I feel like I get on here and I try to give you actionable information. And clearly you've been on here with me. You've been listening for 20 plus minutes. Give us 5 seconds more of your time. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, man. It's gonna help us out a lot as we try to grow. So do that for me. Good luck on week 4 and go out there and get you some bread. I'll see y'all next week.